you guys probably know that James took a 365-day vow of silence to show the plight that animals go through, and broke it on an Australian news show. He was a former meteor, a former non-animal guy, and was diagnosed with cancer. He was 6 weeks to live, and has turned his entire life around. He is now touring to give speeches, free speeches, of what he does, animal rights, animal activism, and I don't really think I should say more about him because I think you guys know. So, okay, yeah, here.
Thanks everybody. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. Very grateful to see so many faces here and lining up like that. It was a pleasure to meet so many of you in the line. And I just want to say, yeah, it's always such a positive and great experience for me to be able to talk about what I'm going to tell you tonight, because this is such an important issue. This is something that has enriched my life in countless ways, and for me, all I feel like I'm doing is sharing a gift. Passing a gift on to my fellow humans that is better for them and better for this planet and better for the animals. It is so incredibly good, and it's a message that needs to be spread, and I feel extremely grateful tonight to be able to be that person to pass this message on to you, so that I hope that you will take something from it and not just hear the information, because that's only step one. I'm going to talk to you about everything that I think is important tonight, but it's about step two, which is taking action with that information. And that's when we can actually see a significant and meaningful change happen in this world. And that happens because of each and every one of us making better choices. So we're so empowered, and it's so positive, and I'm so stoked that you're all here. So thank you all so much for being here tonight. Very much appreciated. Now I want you to know that my goals always are the same. My first goal is to inspire people who don't care about animals much to start caring more about them and give them reasons why they should. And my second goal is always to inspire people who already care to be active in spreading this message. But I also want you to know that I'm not here to blame and shame anybody. I'm not here to tell you that you're a bad person. If you feel confronted by some of the things I'm saying, that's your conscience. That's not my fault. Don't blame me for that. That's you. I'm just going to be honest, and I hope you can appreciate that, because I'm not here to try to make you feel good. I'm here simply as someone who wants to tell the facts. I think that's what we all deserve to know, because we've been conditioned a certain way for our entire life to believe otherwise from the truth. So I'm going to share it with you how I learned it myself. Because only a few years ago, I didn't know any of this. I didn't care about any of this. I didn't think this was important at all. And I never thought that my life would get to this point where it is today. So I'm just going to tell you the story. I'm going to tell you what happened to me that changed me from being somebody who did not care at all. I didn't care at all about other species, about animals, to somebody passionate enough to take a year-long vow of silence, to raise awareness for the animals, to promote peace over violence. It's been an interesting journey, and one that I'm so grateful I've been on. And really it all started for me when I was 17 years old, which was about 13 years ago. I was diagnosed with leukemia and lymphoma, and I was given 6 weeks to live. The doctors said that I had a very rare condition, a very rare combination of cancers, maybe 1 in 12 million people get it, and it didn't look good at all. And I got so sick, as you can imagine. I put on, we talk pounds here, I put on about 60 pounds so fast that the skin on my sides actually ripped and bled. I was so unwell that at times having bad reactions to the treatment. It felt like somebody was beating my legs with baseball bats and dragging a knife up my spine. There were other times where I had a case of pneumonia so bad that the doctors said if I'd stopped at one more traffic light on the way to the hospital, that I probably would have died. I couldn't breathe properly for days and days, and it was the scariest experience of my life. And what this experience was, what it all really came down to, was it was my first experience of true suffering. I'd never suffered like this before. I didn't even know what suffering was. You know, the worst I'd ever had it was maybe a sprained ankle skateboarding, something like that. Not bad at all. And I really suffered through my experience of having cancer. What I realized through that suffering is that when you are going through something like that, nothing else matters. You don't care about anything else. All you want is to come out of your suffering. It's overwhelming, it's all-consuming. It just takes every bit of energy you've got to just maintain some sort of sanity. It was such a bad experience. And what I realized is that suffering is one of the worst things that we could ever go through. In fact, the only thing I can think of that might be worse than your own suffering is being a parent and your child suffering. Perhaps that would be worse. I can't say. But that could possibly be worse. There were times where I thought that my mum and dad were suffering more than I was. But definitely this is one of the worst things in the world that we can ever experience. So it follows, and so luckily that I met somebody who wanted to help me. You know, once I was able to start training and get fit again, because I didn't recognize myself, this man wanted to help me get fit and strong again. He's a personal trainer. And he wanted to help me lose the weight and just get my energy back and feel good. And that's what he did. And it was such a meaningful experience, not just for me, but for him also. Because what he'd done wasn't just help me lose 60 pounds again, but he'd actually helped me out of my suffering. And this is where I think we both realized what an important thing that is to do. Because if suffering is the worst thing that we can go through, then surely it follows to come out of your suffering is the best thing that you can go through. And it would follow again, for this man who helped me, that to help someone else out of their suffering must be one of the best ways you can contribute and use your time in life to creating more positivity, to being a good human, to doing something good. And that's what he experienced, and that's what I experienced. And through this man's help, helping me like this, he inspired me in such a big way. So I decided I wanted to do the same. I wanted to help other people out of their suffering too. And I did it the only way I knew how. I became a personal trainer as well. And for the next 8 years, I was very passionate about helping people get fit, get strong, get off their medications, learn how to eat, learn how to exercise, learn how to be positive people, and everything I thought of that was important in living a healthy life. I ended up working on cruise ships, traveling around the world, giving lectures on health and doing all the classes and everything like that. And put your hand up if you've been on a cruise ship before. Yeah, it's a big thing around here, right? So you know, there's so many kooky weirdos on cruise ships. Probably some of them put their hand up, maybe. So many interesting people. I'm meeting like 1,000 of these people every week. Some amazing people, some people that I was a bit afraid of. And one day, I met somebody who actually changed my life forever. Just through planting one seed. So this man was a very wise old Indian man. He talked like the Buddha, you know, deep philosophical guy. He kind of talked as if he was blazing that Cali bud, you know what I'm saying? And he looked like it. Like, he was this big, you know, like just big, jolly, smiley head. And I just had a lot of respect for him, and we talked every day. 2 hours a day we talk, and I'm just soaking up all his wisdom. He's talking about nature, he's talking about the universe, he's talking about connections he sees. He's just talking about all this cool stuff. And I was intrigued. So we talk every day. And then, on the last day of his 2-week cruise, I nearly got away, I was so close. The last day, he said something to me that changed my life forever. We're talking, he's going deep, and then he says, eating animals is bad karma. And I was like, oh shit. No, you didn't. So I've been eating animals 3 times a day, every day, for my whole life. You know, I'm thinking, but I didn't know. I still, do I believe in karma? Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. But what he'd done was made it about me. Because I didn't care about eating animals or for the animals, but he made it about me. He made me think, oh, maybe I'm doing something that I could stop doing to increase the goodness in my life. Now I kind of am interested in it. But just like he planted this one seed with me, another seed had been planted 7 years prior when I first became a personal trainer. My personal training mentor has said to me, there's no such thing as a healthy vegetarian. And I was like, sweet, I don't want to be one, ever. In fact, this is just never going to happen in my life. Good. So I said that to this Indian man, there's no such thing as a healthy vegetarian. He said, I've been vegetarian for 20 years. I said, bro, you need to get off this cruise, go to a hospital, you're going to have an iron deficiency, you're going to have a protein deficiency, 100%. He's like, I'm all right, I'm healthy. I'm thinking, man, this guy should be dead. Like, that's what I actually thought. What's going on? He's lying, he's not a vegetarian. So I'm thinking, all right, maybe there's something to this. This man, very wise man who has built some credibility with me over the last 2 weeks, has told me that maybe I would have a better life if I became vegetarian, if I stopped eating animals because it's bad for me. I thought, you know what, I'll just try it. I'll try it for a week, just to see how I feel. Really, just so I can cross it off the list and say that was not for me. I couldn't even get out of bed after 3 days. I'm so glad I tried it because now I know definitely never in my life. So I tell him, I'm going to try it for 7 days, experiment, see how I feel. 3 days in, to my shock, I was feeling amazing. I was feeling so good. I was feeling energized. I was feeling better after my meals. I was enjoying the food I was eating. Because I was thinking I'm just going to be eating lettuce and tofu for every meal. I didn't know what I was going to eat. And I'm just feeling strong and like better after less sleep. And you might be thinking, how could you have noticed that after 3 days? But remember, I was on a cruise ship. And you know what it's like. It's all about the buffet. So I'm living on this thing. I have no willpower. I'm stacking my plate up like pyramids of meat. No room for fruit and veggies. I'm making the most of this. That's how I felt. No wonder in 3 days of not eating just full-on massive loads of meat, no wonder I felt better. But it was a shock to me because I thought I'd barely be able to get out of bed in the morning. So I'm feeling good. I thought, man, something might be to this. You know, I should start looking into this more. And I started looking into it, thinking maybe that guy was right. Maybe this could be something, a feeling that I could sustain for longer. Maybe I could even share this with my clients and my friends and my family. Maybe it's better for them too. So I get excited, start researching, and I realized very quickly how much I had been avoiding seeing the facts. It didn't take long at all to learn that not only can you be healthy without eating any animal products, but you are likely to live a longer life. You are likely to have less nutrient deficiencies than those eating a standard diet. You are likely to reduce your chances of heart disease, cancers, diabetes, obesity, osteoporosis, the biggest killers. And I thought, how did I not pay attention to this? You know, how did I not know this? As a personal trainer for 8 years, I thought I knew my stuff. But I think about it now, and I realized information trickled in from time to time, but I was just completely closed off to it. You know, I remember one time I saw this video of these, there were two like pork chops, like big slabs of meat, and someone poured Coca-Cola on the pork chops, and these maggots and worms or something, I don't know, some sort of parasite started crawling out of it, and I went, yuck! But that's not my meat. That doesn't happen in my meat. That's this guy's meat. I don't know where he bought his meat. Where I buy my meat, that's not what happens. I was so closed off to the possibility because I never, ever thought I would stop eating meat. I couldn't even imagine one meal without meat. I couldn't even imagine it. If I had a meal without meat, I'm like, that was just an entree to the actual meal. That's how I always felt. So I'm starting to learn, man, this is so much healthier. I get excited. Great, maybe I can live longer and be healthier and help my friends and family and clients. Amazing, I've stumbled onto this massive secret That's how I felt. So I started telling everybody, you know how vegetarians get. I'm like, man, you got to go vegetarian. Sit down, I got to tell you all this new stuff I just learned. Go vegetarian, go vegetarian. Everybody go vegetarian. And everyone's like, what the hell, man? You were eating meat for breakfast like 2 days ago. Are you okay? I was like, man, I've learned all this information. It's so important. You need to listen. People are like, whatever, man. And I keep researching, getting very, very interested in it. And soon I realized that a lot of people aren't vegetarian for the health benefits, but a lot of people are vegetarian for the animals. I didn't understand that at all. It's like, why? Why would you change your life in any way for animals? They don't even care about their own lives. They don't even have the capacity to care about their own lives. So why would we care about them? That's so foolish. That's what I thought. I never understood who animals actually are. I thought they couldn't care about themselves. Why would we? All these people though, all these people, vegetarian for the animals. And I thought maybe there's something to this as well. I don't know. I'm getting a little more open-minded surrounding this topic. It seems to be connected. Maybe I should watch this documentary everyone is recommending. Earthlings. Everyone's recommending Earthlings. I'm like, Earthlings sounds pretty chill. Oh my God. There are not enough warning labels on this documentary. So I'll tell you, if you haven't seen Earthlings, you don't know what it is. Earthlings is a documentary that shows all the ways humans exploit animals for food, for clothing, entertainment, medical testing, as pets, all the ways that humans use and abuse animals. Now I had seen animals being killed before in slaughterhouse footage. I'd seen it. My brother told me to watch it one day. He said, watch this, you'll never want to eat animal products again. I was like, put it on. You put it on, I didn't feel a thing. I'm watching these animals get their throats slit. I did not feel an ounce of sympathy for them, I promise you. Afterwards, I turned it off. I said, are you actually feeling guilty about this? We are humans. We need to eat animals to survive. If you want to feel guilty, go ahead. I'm not going to feel guilty about being a human. Doesn't make sense to me. But when I watch Earthlings, I was watching it with a new perspective, with a new understanding that we can be healthy without eating animals. So I'm watching these animals get mutilated and tortured and killed. I'm watching them scream. I'm watching the terror in their eyes. I'm watching the way that we handle them and push them around and send them to their death after we force them to breed, to be here through forced breeding and this whole cycle of oppression and violence. And I saw it and I thought, okay, I'm no animal lover, but I am not okay with unnecessary violence against anybody, even if I don't really care about animals much. I still don't want them to suffer and scream in horror because of me. I definitely don't want that. I've always seen myself as a peaceful, respectful, loving person. How could I justify that? And I ask myself the question, if we don't need to kill and eat animals to survive and thrive, what are we doing this to them for? And that question was the driving force, because I couldn't find an answer. And I wanted to find an answer because I didn't want to definitely stay vegetarian if I didn't want to. I wanted to be able to opt out at any time, but I felt like, I don't know if I can opt out now. And so I started looking into it more, and I realized this is such an injustice. Fair enough if we had to survive, but when the best justifications we've got are taste and habit and tradition and convenience, this is not justified action in any, not even close. I realize I cannot participate in this anymore. I am no longer vegetarian for the health benefits. I'm vegetarian now for the animals. I start telling everybody differently. I'm like, hey, remember I was telling you all about them health benefits the other day? They're still there, and there's even more. I keep learning. But do you know what happens to the animals? Have you seen Earthlings, man? And everyone is sort of responding like, don't tell me, I don't want to know, don't spoil my dinner. And I was like, get that off, this is so important, what's wrong with you? You told me you're an animal lover. You know, and I realized this is strange. I'm not an animal lover, but I can see this is wrong. And even if you're not an animal lover, 99% of people can agree unnecessary animal cruelty is wrong. So I thought, okay, why is this such a hard thing to tell people and then listen to? And I realize now, there's so much conditioning here. There's so much that we have been told that has given us this belief system that makes us think that this is natural and normal and necessary to treat these innocent, vulnerable beings in the way that we do. It's so normal. In fact, you never even chose to do this. You just were fed this. You never made a conscious decision and said, you know what I might start doing now? Eating animal products. And that's not what happened. And so I started telling everybody passionately. I started becoming passionate about animals. Everyone's like, what happened to you, man? You didn't even like dogs the other day, which is kind of true. I didn't even really like dogs very much. And this Indian man, he wasn't even done with me yet, as if he hadn't done enough. He said one more thing to me. I said, how do you know all this? You're such a wise person. How do you know all this cool information? He said, meditation. I was like, okay, mate. Come on now. You were sitting in the corner meditating and this information just came to you. He's like, yep. I went, oh, God. But he was convincing, so I thought, you know what, all right, maybe I'll try some meditation. And, you know, as you'll learn in the stories that follow, I didn't just I'm not someone who just thinks, well, I'll start doing 10 minutes in the morning or something. That's not really my stuff. So I book in for a 10-day meditation course where you meditate for 10 hours a day for 10 days and you don't talk the whole time. What was I thinking? I don't actually know. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. So I book in for this massive meditation experience. I get home off the cruise ship. Everyone's calling me. They're like, man, are you okay? We heard you went vegetarian. Like, what's going on? People are freaking out, all my friends. I'm like, yeah, I'm vegetarian now. You're going to be vegetarian soon too. I got this documentary to show you. Full on, mate. So I'm telling everybody, I get to this meditation. You meditate 10 hours a day, man. So I'm 5 days deep, meditating, like doing it. It's this whole technique about observing your physical sensations and remaining equanimous, which means you just remain accepting of the moment as it is. So I'm doing it. And then this weird sensation comes over me. And I'm just observing it, like freaking out a bit. I've never felt this like strange, tingling, vibrating thing going on. Eventually it passes. And I'm left there just thinking, what just happened to me? And then I think what happened, and what I hope happened, because I based an entire year of my life on this moment. I think what happened is it was my body trying to get me to speak, to get something out, to say something. And I was like, not yet, like a few more days, body. And this got me thinking, whoa, you haven't spoke in 5 days. That's pretty amazing. I've never done that before. I wonder how long you could do this for. I'm thinking, well, imagine doing another month. That would be hectic. But then I thought, imagine doing a whole year. Whoa. Now, this is the danger of meditation. When you meditate, you become really positive, and all the ideas you have, you think are really good ideas. It's very dangerous. You need to meditate with caution. So I get this idea, take a year-long vow of silence, and I'm like, yep, top of the list on my to-do list, great idea. Anyway, I get home, I'm thinking, how am I going to tell everybody this? I've just come home and said, guess what, everybody? I've gone vegetarian. People are freaking out. And I'm thinking, how am I going to get home and be like, guess what, everybody? One more small thing. I'm not going to talk for a whole year as well. People are going to be like, I told you he was on drugs, man. So I thought, all right, I need some sort of reason to do this. What have I got? Maybe I could do it to raise awareness for something I care about. What do I care about? Well, I care about people, I care about health. You know, I always have for a long time. But my newfound passion for speaking up for the animals was strong. I'd been vegetarian for 3 months, and I was telling everybody. I felt like it was so important, and I thought maybe I could go voiceless for the animals. They're voiceless, I'll be voiceless, good enough, that'll do. People will figure that out. So yeah, I could take this vow silence for them, raise awareness for them in some way. But is this a big enough cause? I keep telling people, and even animal lovers are just telling me not to put them off their meal. Is this important enough? Am I just getting caught up in something here? So I decided I need to do some more research. I go back to where I started, health. And I realize right now we have an epidemic of illness and disease. The biggest killer that humans are faced with today, heart disease, is what most of us, most of our friends, most of our family members are going to die from, suffer and die from. And this disease barely needs to exist at all. The only disease that has been proven to reverse heart disease is a diet free from animal products. That alone says so much. The biggest killer can be reversed by not eating animal products. I thought this is great, but then I also start learning that approximately 70% of cancer cases could be reduced by not eating animal products. And I learned that we could have this abundance of health and vitality and energy. We could be living those extra couple of decades that would have been robbed from us from eating the wrong foods. I got excited. This is so good for me, and so good for my family, and so good for my friends and clients. I can't wait to help them live longer lives. You know, it doesn't get much more important than that. I start looking more into it. I realize this isn't just health. This is this planet. This is our environment, the environment. The only home we've got, and we are destroying it right now. And animal agriculture is the leading cause of the destruction, the leading cause of deforestation, of species extinction, of habitat loss, ocean dead zones, greenhouse gas emissions. There are more greenhouse gas emissions produced by the methane that comes out of cows than by every single transportation device on this planet. By the year 2048, they estimate that there will be no fish left in the ocean. We have a serious issue. And I thought it was all good. I'm like, whatever, the government will sort it out. I don't know why I had a lot of faith in them. The issue happens because of us, because of the products that we demand. And the beauty is it can end and reverse because of us. Not many things we can have such a drastic change on, but this is one of them. Both important topics, health and environment. But obviously, I couldn't help but come back to the animals. What we're talking about here is approximately 56 billion land animals and approximately 3 trillion sea animals who feel pain and suffer just like we do. They have their own communities, they communicate with each other, they live in their own way on this world, they share this planet with us, they care for their babies, they eat, they breathe, they sleep, they have their own heart, they have their own brain, they have everything that matters in common with us. Everything that matters. And the differences are meaningless, what they look like, you know? I realize this is 3 trillion innocent beings that are being needlessly harmed and killed from a society that claims to be civilized and just and care about peace and respect. And we do respect some animals. In our society, we respect dogs, and we respect whales, and we respect cats. What about the pigs, the cows, the chickens, the fish? Is there any logical reason why we respect some and make them part of our family and mutilate, torture and kill others and make them part of our sandwich? Is there any logical reason why we do that? There's not. It's what we've been taught. We've also been taught we need meat for protein, animal flesh for protein. We've been taught we need cow's milk for calcium. We've been taught that there is a humane way to kill somebody who does not want to die. No wonder even animal lovers are confused about this. No wonder people who are against animal cruelty are still contributing to animal cruelty 3 times a day, most of them. Because the lies are thick and they've been told to every single one of us. And the truth can be hard to find. And even when you hear it, you don't want to believe it because it goes against everything that you've thought for decades usually of your entire life. There's 3 trillion reasons I found to take this year-long vow of silence for the animals. And so I start preparing. What am I going to do? I'll travel around Australia in a van. I'll be voiceless. I won't talk at all. And I'll use online social media pages to spread the message. I'll tell them where I'm going. I'll tell them what I'm doing. I'll put in a little bit of a message here and there. But in the planning for this, I realized I need to get educated because everyone's asking me all these questions. What about free range? I'm like, I don't know. What about protein? I'm like, try lentils. I'm not sure. What about this? What about that? What if we don't kill and eat animals? Won't they kill and eat us? Actually. And I was thinking, chickens are not going to do that. Relax. But all these questions, I need to get educated. I'm going to be putting myself out there. And this is when I learned that I wasn't all the way there yet. So I remember it very clearly. I was having a conversation with my cousin. She's like, what's this year-long vow of silence you're doing? And I said, yeah, I'm doing this thing for the animals. Let's watch Earthlings. I'm doing this thing for the animals. You know, and it's so important, and I've just learned all this new stuff, and it's blown my head off. So I'm going to do this year-long vow of silence for animals. And as I'm telling her this, I'm eating a piece of cheese. And this is the only time where I've been grateful that the dairy industry is so good at keeping secrets. Well, I thought, good, I don't look like that much of a hypocrite probably to this person right now. But to me, I realized I was being a hypocrite because I was starting to learn that it's not just about not eating meat. Obviously, meat has been cut off someone's body. Someone suffered and died, no doubt about it. But when you look at a carton of milk, it's white. There's this silhouette picture of this happy cow on the front. Eggs, you don't think about the cruelty. They're going to lay eggs anyway, right? You don't think about it. You don't know about it. It's not as obvious. So it took me a little bit longer to connect these dots and realize that actually all animal products are animal cruelty. In fact, it's even worse than cruelty because what we do is make them our property. And we use them as if we own their lives. And all animal use is a form of exploitation. And all exploitation is a form of abuse. And all abuse is immoral. I realize it's not just about being vegetarian and not eating meat. It's about the cruelty in dairy and eggs and leather, wool, silk. It's about products that contain animal products or that are being tested on animals. It's about places that exploit animals for entertainment or for work. It's about all of this. It's about the use of animals in our society. It's all wrong. They don't deserve to be used by us in any way, just like we don't want to be used by somebody else or owned by somebody else. It's that simple. And this is when I realized, oh my God, I'm going to have to be a vegan. Scary thought. This is a scary thought. I was thinking, how did I get to this point? I didn't even like dogs the other day. What is going on in my life? I always thought veganism was extreme. This is probably why. I only knew one person who was vegan, my friend Grant. And one day, a mutual friend had come up to me and he said, guess what, man? Oh, what? He goes, Grant has gone vegan. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? He said, I don't know. but he doesn't sit on leather couches anymore. And I was like, what? That's so weird, bro. I didn't get it. That's it. That's all I knew. Vegan. I tell you though, now I understand. A vegan is somebody who doesn't consume any animal products. They don't support any animal exploitation. We don't eat them. We don't wear them. We don't use them for entertainment. We don't use products that have been tested on or contain them. We just leave them alone. We just let them live their lives the way that they would want to live. Veganism is the golden rule in action. Treat others the way that you'd want to be treated. If you wouldn't want to be abused and killed, don't abuse and kill someone else. It's the most simple thing I can think of. And I always thought it was extreme. And in this moment, thinking about it, I was thinking, what is extreme about this? Since when did not wanting to harm animals become the extreme option? What is extreme about that? This is the most chill thing I can think of. What is extreme is saying that you love animals and that you're against animal cruelty while you pay somebody to mutilate and torture and kill an animal for foods and products that not only you don't need, but that you're better off without. That is extreme, extremely violent, and extremely cruel, and extremely unnecessary. So I thought, okay, I need to be vegan. I can't believe this has happened to me, but I was happy about it. I thought, this feels right, you know? And then I didn't go vegan straight away. It took me a little bit of a process, you know? I had to learn what I could eat. I spent all this time learning how to go vegetarian, then I had to spend all this time figuring out, well, how do I go vegan? I kind of wish I just cut out the vegetarian part, just learn how to go vegan straight away. Actually, I was happy to realize it's so much easier than I was expecting. You have a vegan version of all of your favorite meals. Every single meal you can think of. Burritos, spaghetti bolognese, ice creams, chocolates, nachos, pizzas, pastas, curries, everything. There's delicious vegan options of that. We even got vegan meat. We even got vegan cheese. We got it all. So we got all of that. And then we've got millions of vegan recipes just made from fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, seeds, and legumes in their whole food form. We got millions of recipes. I got excited, you know, I started eating it all. I'm trying this vegan food, I'm trying that vegan food, stoked on it, but I was still struggling with ice cream. I didn't want to eat it. But every now and then, I would just have a moment of weakness and binge on ice cream. Feeling bad, I'm eating up like those poor cows, really. I felt bad. I didn't want to eat it. I was like, why am I doing this? But then I learned the best recipe of all. When you freeze a few bananas and you blend them up with a bit of soy milk, man, why didn't they teach us that day one kindergarten? That's what we all should have learned that day. So I learned this new recipe for delicious banana ice cream. Boom, I'm like, oh, vegan just got a whole lot easier. I was eating that like breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 6 months. And I spent that year figuring out, doing this vow of silence. Just before I started the vow of silence, I made a decision because I got to this point where I was still slipping up. It was deliberate. Someone would be throwing their food away, non-vegan food. I'm like, don't throw that away, I'll have it. It's gonna go to the bin anyway. I got to a point where I realized I do not want to contribute to this at all. I don't want this product of torture in my body. I don't want to condone this in any way. So I thought, okay, I'm never going to say yes to animal products ever again. And on the day I started my vow of silence, which was January 1st, 2014, was also the day that I said I will never eat any animal products again. I'll be vegan from this day on. And that's what's happened since. So on this day, it's midnight, the clock was about to strike midnight, New Year was about to begin, that's when my vow of silence began. What an anticlimax. You know when something exciting happens and you want to like cheer and get stoked? Well, I was just like, wasn't as exciting as I was expecting. Next day I start traveling around Australia and writing my little blog. What I realized quite quickly is that being voiceless is hard. People ignore you, you have things to say, you can't say it. You think of a really funny joke, you start writing it down, ready to tell everybody, and by the time you're halfway through, you realize this isn't funny anymore. That was happening all the time. But then luckily, I actually met somebody who was also taking a year-long vow of silence, and coincidentally, she's actually here, right here, Casey. Phew. It was so weird, right? This is what happened. I get this email before I started the vow. I get this email. Hi James, I'm from America, I'm vegan. I was like, wicked, sick. She goes, I also am taking a year-long vow of silence next year. And I was thinking, that's my idea. Stole that. I was like, cool. So when and she said she's coming to Australia. I said, sweet, when you come to Australia, let's hang out. We obviously should, but surely we're the only 2 vegans in the world taking a year-long vow of silence this year. Let's chill. So she comes. And Casey is really fluent in sign language. And you know when people are fluent in sign language, did anybody get that? Okay. Some people are like, yeah. Some people are like, what the hell did he just say? And that was my whole year, basically. I said, people who are fluent in sign language, they talk like this with their mouth with no noise. And that's what Casey was doing. And I've just been writing everything down up to this point, and it was slow and annoying. And then Casey, and I'm thinking, oh, I could chuck my little notebook out of the van, I'm going to start communicating like this. And it's actually freed up a lot of space, I felt, because I didn't think I was going to be able to really communicate at all to anybody that year. It was just too much work. So I started communicating like that. And the first thing when I realized I had more time, I thought, well, I want to do something with my time. What can I do? And I thought, I'm doing this year-long vow of silence for the animals. I haven't even been around animals. Maybe I should go be around some animals. So I decided to volunteer at a rescue farm. And I get to this rescue farm, and they're all excited, like, it's that voiceless guy. And I was like, what's that? Get in there. They start showing me around. This is Harry the horse. This is Peter the horse. And I was like, okay. And then she takes me to the chickens. It's like 30 chickens. And she starts telling me all their names. This is Sarah the chicken. This is Jemima. This is Jasmine. Tell me all their names. And I was just thinking, come on now. You don't know all their names. Why would you even name them all? Why would you? They're just chickens. They're not dogs. You know, that's what I was thinking. And I kind of expressed this to her, non-verbally. And you know how there's like those people out there that are obsessed with cats? They got like 45 cats at home. There's probably at least a few here, oh, right there. There's also people that feel the same about chickens. They love chickens a lot, which is great. But this is one of those people. And I'm like, chickens, why name them? They don't know what, come on, that's silly. And she was like, is this the guy? Is this the voiceless guy for the animals thing? She's like, what do you mean? Of course it's worth naming them. They're all individuals. They all have their own thing going on. Like Sarah, for example, she is a sweetheart, you know? Give her a little pat, she loves it. Stay away from Jasmine. And I was like, I'm thinking about it. I thought, well, maybe. I'd never actually considered that chickens really had much going on. In fact, they're such intelligent animals. And even if they weren't though, we shouldn't base their value on how smart they are. There's a lot of humans around that are not very intelligent. Doesn't mean we harm them and, you know, use them and kill them. Like, sometimes we feel like it, but no. She's telling me this and I'm thinking, okay, this is the first time where I've thought maybe there is they are individuals in here. You know, I've only been around dogs before. Yes, they have some personality. All right, humans, yeah, we're all unique, but similar in a lot of ways. Okay, you know, I'll sit with that one. I don't know yet. You might just be one of those animal people that gets a little bit too deep into it all. And then the next day, we get this phone call. It's like such a hot day. I don't know in Fahrenheit. It's like 45 degrees in Celsius. It's like, I think it's like 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's so hot. And we get this phone call from somebody who had just rescued a baby cow from slaughter, a baby boy cow. They said, can we bring Rupert to your sanctuary? And we were like, of course. So this baby boy comes, right? They rock up in this station wagon, they pop the back, and there's just this tiny, tiny little baby cow in there. So beautiful. I'd never seen a baby cow before, or even a big cow before. So I get in there, I'm like, oh my God, I'm touching him, like he's so soft, he's so gentle, he's got these big, beautiful eyes, this big, soft face, I'm just like this on him, oh. We get him out of there, and we put him down. And Rupert is struggling in a big way. He's panting, his eyes are kind of rolling in the back of his head, he can't stand up. He's a fresh member of Earth. He still has his umbilical cord attached, just hanging there. He's brand new to this world. And he's dying. So we're trying to get water into him, trying to help. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm just trying to figure something out. And this is the first time that I'd ever been confronted with the reality and a victim of the dairy industry. You know, you see the result of it all the time in the supermarkets. You see the result of all these food products in neatly wrapped packages on the supermarket shelves. You know, their body parts in there. You see that. But to see this animal and make it all real, because for those who don't know, the dairy industry is at least as cruel as the meat industry. In the dairy industry, first of all, another myth that has been pushed on us is that cows just give milk. They just always give it milk. Happily, here you go. Actually, cows are a mammal, just like a human, and for any mammal to be giving milk, they need to be pregnant or recently have given birth. For that to happen in the dairy industry, a human will shove their arm into the cow's anus to hold onto the cervix, to maneuver the cervix. They will inject her vagina with bull semen. They force a pregnancy on her. And they do this on an apparatus commonly known in the industry as a rape rack. After 9 months of being pregnant, just like a human, she gives birth. And almost immediately, her babies are stolen from her because humans want the milk, so they can't have the babies drinking the milk that was made for them. Now this is one of the most traumatic experiences ever in the life of a mother cow in the dairy industry, and they do not have a good life at all. The baby, actually I want to tell you a bit more about that. What happens when they're separated, the mothers will often return to this last spot that they saw their babies. They'll point in the same direction, and they often cry and bellow for days. The baby boys will never produce milk. They're seen as a waste product in the dairy industry. They're useless, they're profitless. It's all about money. It's not about animals. It's not about anything but money. That's all they want. And because they're never going to make them any money, they're sent to the slaughterhouse. These baby boys, just like Rupert. And at the slaughterhouse, they are shot in the head with a bolt gun. It'll shoot a bolt through their skull and pierce their brain. This stuns them. Then they have their throats slit. These baby animals have never even had an opportunity to do anything wrong by anyone. But they wouldn't anyway because they're such gentle beings. They are as innocent as a small child. They've never done anything wrong. And this is how we treat them. We slit their throats because we want to steal their milk from their mum. These little babies, these gentle animals, what kind of sick society would think that this is okay? And we take it a step further and we call it humane slaughter. How insulting. Humane, the word means to show compassion. How can you compassionately slit a baby animal's throat? How can you compassionately kill anybody who does not want to die? Humane is nothing more than a word used by our industry to fool good people like us into doing something very, very bad. Humane means nothing for these animals. It's just to make us feel better about our choices. And if you think about humane like this, my brother Jono, who I love. He is one of my best mates. I let him his whole life free range wherever he wants to go. And then one day, in his sleep, boom, I shoot him in the head. I kill him. He didn't feel it, he didn't see it coming. And that's what I say to the judge. I say, what's the problem? It was humane murder. He didn't see it, he didn't feel it coming. Is the judge going to be like, but did you eat him after? Oh, you did, that's totally fine. Or is he going to be like, what are you talking about, humane murder? There's no humane way to murder somebody. Murder is murder. It doesn't matter how it was done. Of course, less cruelty is better, but you can never escape that being a murderer, no matter how you do it, and killing somebody is one of the worst acts of cruelty that you can inflict on another being, because you're taking them away from this world. You're robbing them of their entire life. What could be more cruel than that? To somebody who does not want to die. So there's no humane way to do this. And unfortunately, a lot of people are confused into believing that they can. But if you just put yourself in that situation and ask, would I like to be humanely slaughtered? Would I like my mother or my best friend to be humanely slaughtered? That is a really good indicator of whether something is humane or not. Think about it. That is just the baby boys. That is what happens to the baby boys in the industry. And the baby girls have the same fate as their mother. They are forcibly impregnated. Her babies are taken from her. This is repeated every year for 5 to 7 years. Can you imagine after the 5th, 6th, 7th year, when their babies are taken from them again, how devastated they are? I've heard some amazing stories about how when these cows, after a few years of going through this process over and over, they go out of their way to hide their babies when they give birth. When they hear the tractor or the bike start up and they know the farmer's coming, they stand in front of their babies. They put branches over them to try to hide them. All of these things, to try to save their babies. They are hooked up to painful milking machines that often cause infections in their udders, like mastitis, which is very painful. And they're just used as a milking machine. And then, after 5 to 7 years of being so severely exploited that they can't continue, they are also sent to the same slaughterhouse as their babies. Humanely slaughtered. The difference between slaughter and murder is just species. I like to just call it murder, because really, what is the difference? We are murdering these innocent beings. We have waged a war on them, and it is so bad that we would not wish this on the worst offender of this planet. In fact, we do not treat the worst child molester, the worst serial killer, anywhere near as badly as we treat these innocent animals. Cows in nature can live 25, sometimes 30, even a little bit more years old. So we are doing this to them in their infancy. And why? Why do we do this? Because we like a bit of cow's milk in our coffee. We like a bit of cow's milk on our cereal. We like another flavour with the cheese on our sandwich. That's it. All of that brutality, all of that cruelty and suffering for a piece of cheese? What are we thinking, mate? We have other cheeses. We have soy milk and rice milk and almond milk and coconut milk and hazelnut milk and so many other milks. In fact, being vegan is often this easy. You go to the supermarket, same supermarket you always shop at, and you go and you reach for the cow's milk and then you go, oh, I'm vegan now. And then you do this. And that's it. And you get the soy milk, or you get the rice milk, or the almond milk, or coconut milk. Literally, a lot of the time, that is how easy it is to be vegan. It takes no extra effort of your life. You're just getting the plant-based versions of the foods you already enjoy eating. So easy. Such a small shift in your life to eliminate all of that suffering. How else could you be such a hero to these animals? There's no other way. It's the best way. And seeing this baby cow, Rupert, fueled my fire. Because this made it real. It wasn't just a video I'd seen on YouTube. This was a victim of the dairy industry. And he was under my care, which I didn't think was the best idea. But they wanted me to look after Rupert. So I'm giving him his milk every day. This big plastic bottle with this rubber teat on the end. And I'm feeding Rupert. And basically though, most of our relationship was just him headbutting me and slobbering on my leg. And like, they headbutt their mum's udder when they want milk. So he was just always kind of attacking me really, which was fine. And I started getting to know this cow, and I looked him in the eyes every day, and I really started to understand that this isn't a thing like I once thought. This is a someone, their own heart, their own brain, their own wants and desires. It's just a baby pining for his mum, and it really brought it home. And then after 6 weeks of looking after Rupert, it was time for me to go. I had to move on with my journey. So I wanted to say goodbye, but I hadn't spoken in this whole time. I thought, how am I going to say goodbye? I can't write it down here. You can't read my writing. It's so messy. And I can't say anything. I know. I only got one option left. Telepathy. I don't know. I thought maybe I'll just think it to him. See you later. So he's over the other side of the barn. And I look at him and I just start going, Rube. No, I didn't do that. I'm kidding. I'm just looking at him and I think, Rupert, it has been so good getting to know you, man. I have learned so much. It has been an honour to be able to look after you in this time of your life. So sorry about what happened to you, but you're in good hands here, and I'll come back and visit you one day in the future. And he's looking at me the whole time. And then he just starts walking over. And I'm thinking, here we go, headbutts, slobber, all good, all good. Last time, even though I just put these pants on, all good. He comes up. And he does something that he has never done before in the 6 weeks I've known him. He comes up, I'm expecting headbutts and slobber, and he just nuzzles his head on my leg. And I'm like, whoa. So I think, all right, let's see how far I can push this. So I bend down to pat him on the head, expecting a big cow tongue up my face. And I'm just patting him, and he's looking at me. And we're looking at each other, and I'm just thinking, we're having a moment here. This is a full-on cow-human moment happening right now. Now, I'm not saying that he heard me. He heard me. I'm not saying that. I'm not. I don't know. No, honestly, I'm not. But it made me think. It did make me think, because this was such strange behaviour in this moment when I'm saying goodbye, and he comes up to me like this. I was freaking out. I thought, okay, maybe there is more to these animals than we give them credit for. We think we know everything about them. We think we know everything about these animals. We write it. Cows are this, and this. Pigs, this, that. And we know a lot. But we will never fully understand the complexity of the consciousness and the awareness of our fellow Earthlings on this planet. We'll have ideas about it, we'll have concepts about it, we'll know a lot about them, but we'll never fully get it. We'll never fully know what it is to be a cow, or a pig, or a chicken, or a fish. And I realized we need to be much more open-minded with who we have living with us here. We go to the other ends of the galaxy looking for life. Why would they want to be found by us? I guarantee aliens they're the other side of the universe from us. They're scared of us. I'm scared of us. We're scared of us. Look what we do to the life on this planet. Do you really think that they would want to be found by us? Hell no. Why do we look for life in other places when we have life right here? What we need to do is learn how to respect each other. This experience with Rupert fueled my fire in such a big way, and I wanted to see more for myself. So I decided I would start visiting factory farms to see, is this real? What these activists are putting online, is this actually how it is? So I start looking into it, I start going into places, not welcomed, like, hey, I just thought I'd check out your facility. There's a little bit of a night mission where you dress up a little bit like a ninja, and you go in. And I went to a lot of these places in Australia. And I wish I could say that it was actually sweet. They were pretty happy, they were cool. Yes, they're going to be slaughtered, but at least their life was happy. But 97% of animal products in Australia, and it's a huge majority in this country as well, probably be a very close number here as well, come from factory farms. And factory farms, and these places I went to, this is the part where I really struggle to do justice in words. I can't. I can only try to point to it with words, but I cannot actually describe the horror show that it is to be in a place like this. To hear their screams, to see their suffering, to see the terror in their eyes when they look you in the eyes, to see these babies squirming in their last moments after maybe they've just been crushed by their mother because they're stuck in this cage so small that they can't get out of the way in time, to see these piles of dead bodies like they're just garbage, to see the blood, to see the cuts and the bruises, and like, I can't describe it, you know? It's just, you would never be able to, I think, it would be impossible to be in a place like this and not realise what an injustice this is. It is so clearly wrong to keep them in these cages, to do this to them, to use them like they're ours. It's so obvious now. But before, I can't believe how I never really considered it before. And again, this took me to another level where I realised my life, I'm fine. I was always chasing more. I want more this, more that, I want my life to be better. I had everything, I've got everything I could ever want, and then some, and then some. What about them? You know, they've got nothing. They don't have anything good in their life. They don't even have their own freedom. I realised that it's more about, you know, the best way I can contribute is to put my own life in the back seat. Because if I was them, I would desperately want people to realise that there are some things in life that are more important than your own. And what could be more important than trillions of lives on this planet who are being harmed and killed every single year by humans who foolishly think that we're compassionate and being humane towards them. It has to end, it has to stop, and the only way it will stop is by humans being that voice for these animals. Because no one listens to their screams, no one listens to their voice. They will listen to ours if we're loud enough about it. So I decided I wanted to be more of that voice for them. And the next thing that happened, this van I was traveling around in broke down in the middle of nowhere, middle of the desert. My friend was driving, so obviously I blamed her completely. You know, mouthing it to her, what have you done? Like, we're driving, and then the engine just turned off. That was it. And they wanted, you know, we got it towed to this place. They wanted all this cash that I didn't have to fix my car. I ended up just saying, well, mouthing, don't worry about it. I can't afford it. I'm just going to have to abandon my van, which I did. And my friend, she said, what are you going to do? How are you going to get back to, I was on the other side of Australia to where I needed to be. How are you going to get back? And I said, I want to walk. You know how big Australia is? It's kind of like the same as USA. It's pretty big, it's a pretty long walk. So I thought, I'm like, oh, I'm walking. She's like, she's quite smart. You can't walk, it's too far. She said, why don't you ride a bike or something? And I was like, of course, that is such a better idea. I'm so glad we did this. I thought, I'll get a bike. Yes, that I could actually maybe make it back. But before that, I had a plane to catch. I was going to Bali, and that meant I needed to get 2,000 kilometers, which is like 800 miles, 900 miles, something like that. And I had to hitchhike that whole way. Hitchhiking in Australia, people pick you up because they want to have a chat. They're lonely, they're bored, they're like, oh, this guy looks good for a chat, let's get him in. You don't even know what an awkward silence is. They were picking me up, I'm just like... This one dude, I'll never forget. I've been like this for like 6 hours, couldn't get out of this town, it was such a small town. Finally, this guy drives past me. So I'm waving him down. He comes back, and I wrote my little note. You know, I've taken a my van's broke down, I need to get to Darwin, I need to get north, and I've taken a vow of silence to raise money for charity, which was also true. But I didn't want to say about the animal thing because I was in cattle country, so I thought, he's not going to let me in. I'm just going to, don't ask me what charity, just let's drive. And I show him my little note, my van's broke down, and he looks at it and he goes, well, that's a bit shit. But I don't even know what he was talking about. I don't know what he was on. He goes, get in there. So I get in his truck, and we're just sitting there like, very awkwardly. And then he says, I'll put my audio book back on. And I was like, cool. Puts his audiobook back on. It's the most Australian audiobook I've ever heard in my life. The narrator, I've never heard such an Australian. And it's just at this point where this guy is walking up the stairs and he starts slashing and yelling everyone. And I was like, I've seen movies start like this. He said, can you at least roll ciggies? And I was like, yeah, I can be useful, man. You need me, I need you, you know what I'm saying? I'm rolling like 3,000 ciggies. Here you go. Keep smoking. We get there, he drops me off. Now the reason why I had a plane to catch, I was going to Bali. What I wasn't expecting in my vow of silence was to be able to advocate one-on-one with people. I thought it would all be online. But what actually happened was that everyone that came into contact with me, they asked, why are you voiceless, man? And that gave me the opportunity every time to give them a card to explain without words, with body language or writing it down, I'm voiceless for the animals. Do you know what happens to animals? Do you know about veganism? And I wanted to be able to bring this conversation up when I started talking again. How am I going to bring it up? I'm going to be talking, what will I do? I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll get covered in tattoos. Everyone always says, what do your tattoos say? What do your tattoos say? I get tattoos. Then when people say, what do your tattoos say? I'll be like, sit down, I'll tell you the whole story. So I go over to Bali. I had a friend there who does tattoos. He starts tattooing me. And I'll tell you a few of them. There's a line here. It says, lions kill for need, humans kill for greed. A lot of people say, yeah, but lions kill animals. Why can't I? Well, lions have to kill animals to survive. They don't have supermarkets either. We have an abundance of choice. We can easily live and thrive without killing animals. Lions do a lot of things you probably don't agree with. You don't have to replicate. Sometimes lions kill and eat their babies. But you don't hear any people using that as a justification to kill and eat their babies. So why have we chosen this one thing that lions do and said we should be able to do it because these lions do it? We're supposed to be a compassionate society. That's why we shouldn't do it. I got a photo here of when we rescued some chickens from a factory farm. And it says, we're fighting until every cage is empty, not until every cage is comfortable. We're not fighting for bigger, comfortable cages playing sweet rap music and big pillows and everything like this so they're enjoying themselves. No innocent being deserves to be in a cage. So we don't want great big cages, empty cages, no cages. That's the least they deserve. What I got? This is one of my favorites. It's an orangutan and her baby. It says, because the heart beats under a covering of feathers, scales, wings, or fur, it is for that reason to be of no account. Meaning, just because their heart is beating under something different than us, does that make them any less significant? And how many times have we got this wrong in the past? When white people believed they were superior to black people, just based on the colour of our skin? That wasn't that long ago. Or when men believed they were superior to women based on their gender? That wasn't that long ago either. Do you really think that it is so far-fetched to believe that now, not that long later, we are still being discriminatory against others? We definitely are. And I'm not talking about sexism or racism. I'm talking about speciesism. When we judge the value of an individual based on their species membership. And that is just as insignificant as what colour skin somebody has, or what colour hair somebody has, or what kind of species somebody is in. Doesn't matter. That's not a trait that determines your individual value. What else have I got here? There's a couple of starving children here. It says, every morsel of meat we eat is slapping the tear-stained face of a hungry child. Right now, and this is one of the most alarming statistics I know, 20,000 children will die of starvation every day. And I just can't get my head around that, actually. One a day seems like way too many. 20,000 a day. If that statistic doesn't tell you that there is a lot wrong with this world, I don't know what statistic will prove that to you. We are so far off the mark. Often, we import the grain that we feed to fatten up these animals before we kill them. We import it from the places in the world that have the highest incidence of this problem. Meanwhile, these factory farmed animals never go hungry, and we give them all this food, and we get back this tiny amount. We give them 6 to 12 times more food than what we can take from their body and their secretions. It's so inefficient. And lastly, well, there's a few more, but this is the metamorphosis of a butterfly, which is when the caterpillar goes into the cocoon, comes out a butterfly. And it says, be the change you wish to see in this world. This is not about pointing the finger at somebody else or another country and saying what you do to animals is so bad. Make things better. Make more peace in this world. This world's so cruel. Be the change. You want a more peaceful world? Model that behavior. So start by looking at what is the worst thing you are contributing to that causes harm and suffering to others. By far, if you look at that in your own life and you're still consuming animal products, that is what it is. There are other things that we can do to be better people and cause less harm, use less plastic, make sure our clothing is ethical and things like that. But by far, the worst contributor to destruction of this planet, our own destruction of our health, and the destruction of the lives of these innocent animals is consumption of animal products. So wouldn't it make sense that the first thing we do in order to become more ethical humans and make this world a more peaceful place is cross that off our list and stop consuming animal products? That's what makes sense to me. I get all these tattoos. I'm sitting across from my tattoos, and he's eating lunch one day, and he looks at me and he says, "Oh, do you want some, man?" And I was like, "No, I don't eat animals, obviously. Have you been tattooing me with your eyes closed?" And he says, "Nah, man, it's vegan." I nearly broke my bout of silence. He goes, "Yeah, I thought if you can do it, why can't I?" And I was like, exactly, man. There is nothing special about me or any other vegan. Sorry, vegans. There's nothing special about you. You do not have to be a highly intellectual person to be a vegan. You do not have to be someone who cares about their health or cares about the environment to be vegan. You don't have to be a particular religion. You don't have to love tofu. You do not even have to love animals. I didn't. You only need to agree with one thing to be a vegan. And that thing is this, that causing needless harm to animals is wrong. If you agree with that, then by your own belief, you already have veganism in your heart. I'm not here telling you you should be against animal cruelty. People already are. All I'm here to say is let's take that and live in alignment with it. Let's align our actions and our values. That's all I'm suggesting, is that we practice what we preach, and that's all that's left to do, aligning your actions with your values. I get back from Bali, I get my bike, I had 5,000 kilometers to ride, that's like 3,000 miles or something. The longest ride I'd ever done was about 25 miles. This was the worst idea I've ever had, I reckon. I promise you, this is up there with the most pain I've ever been in. And it wasn't my legs, you know, like from riding. It was my ass was killing me. Oh, the pain, I can't. And if it wasn't my bum, then it would be my hands. I'd stand up and then my hands, so I'm like, and it was just constant. It sucked so badly. And it was such a long way, and I was thirsty, and I was by myself, and I was in the desert. Everything about it was not fun. I couldn't look around and enjoy the view for weeks. I couldn't even listen to music for weeks, because every moment on that bike was focused on maneuvering around the bike so that I could slightly reduce my agony. How bad is that? It was so bad. But the reason I wanted to do it is because I wanted to show people that you can be healthy, strong, and athletic without eating any animal products. I wanted to do that ride. I'd never done a ride like that before, and just prove to people you can do that as a vegan. But there's so many vegans already proving that myth wrong. The world record holding strongman is a vegan. Mr. Universe of a few years ago is a vegan. World champion arm wrestler is a vegan. World record holding ultra marathoner is a vegan. UFC fighters, weightlifting athletes, all athletes in all sports, you know. Vegans are not just in the top 100, which you would expect in such a small minority of people. We're talking about number 1 in the strength category, number 1 in endurance running. This is amazing for such a small minority to be dominating in some of the most physically demanding athletic sports. But of course, because we are eating what nature intended. We don't look at an animal, a live animal, and go, oh, yum, that looks good. That dog looks delicious. Do we? We don't do it with pigs or cows or chickens or fish either. We look at them and we're like, oh, they're so cute. That's natural. We don't watch slaughterhouse footage and our mouth water and be like, yeah, I'm hungry for that. We watch it and we're like, oh my God, I can't even look at that. Oh, that's so bad, that's disgusting, I feel sick. The look of your food, how it is made, makes you sick. That's a pretty telling sign right there. We don't eat meat raw, unseasoned. We cook it and we season it with plants. We season it with plants. That's what we're supposed to be eating. It's no coincidence that a piece of fruit that you grab like this, you know, to kill an animal, you don't have them claws. You can't run after an animal and rip it apart with your canines. Come on now. Of course not. You think you're going to be biting into any cows at these little things? I'd like to see you try. We are not built like that. We are built to pick a piece of fruit and it is delicious in its raw, natural form. That is nature talking to you and telling you something there. So, obviously, we can be healthy, fit, strong, and excel in athletic sports. And I just wanted to show that in my own way. I get all the way across Australia, somehow, and I get a message, an email actually, from Australia's most popular morning TV show. They said, James, we've caught on to your vow of silence thing. We're wondering if you want to speak for the first time on our show. And I was like, no, hell no. You want me to embarrass myself in front of hundreds of thousands of people in one go? My voice might not work. Nah. And I was really scared to do that. You know, I thought, nah, there's no way. I can't believe they even asked me because now I feel bad about saying no, but I really don't want to do this. But I thought about it, and I thought back to my epiphany that you have to put, you know, some things in life are more important than your own. I thought, damn it, why did I have that epiphany? Okay, I'll do it, but first I'm going to do another 10 days in meditation to figure out exactly what I want to say. And that's what I did. I spent 10 days in meditation, and the next day I go to their studio, I sit in the couch. They said, James, what are your first words going to be? And I said, I want you to ask me why. And they said, oh, okay, James, why did you do this? And I said, thank you for asking. But it was like this, thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. The reason I took this vow of silence is to raise awareness for the voiceless victims of this planet, the animals. We all say we love animals and we're against animal cruelty. Yet we pay people to mutilate and torture and slaughter animals. And it's not for any necessity. It's not because we need to for our health. It's because we like the way they taste. So I went voiceless because they're voiceless. I thought, but then I realized they're not actually voiceless. They cry in pain and they scream in terror. And when they do that, they're telling us that they're suffering. But the problem is, we don't take their suffering seriously because they're covered in feathers or scales or wings or fur. I also did this to raise awareness for the way I've been living my life. I'm vegan, which means I don't consume any animal products. I don't support any animal exploitation. I wanted to show people through my journey how easy that is, how healthy that is, how delicious the food is, and that if you agree that animal cruelty is wrong, then by your own belief, it is the right way for you to live too. And I don't think they were expecting me to say that. Probably not, because they're sponsored by Pork on the Fork, which was a little bit awkward. And the woman interviewing me was, her whole family of farmers. So we're just sitting there, and I knew that, and I'm like, this is weird. But what I was expecting was a bit of a conversation, and I didn't get one. That was just it. Oh, okay, yeah, cool, how's it feel to be talking? Catch you later. And I left there going, oh my God, what happened? Did I do it justice? Did I do the animals justice? Did I do my campaign justice? I hope so. I don't know what happened. I had answers to all these questions I assumed they were going to ask me. I wasn't sure. But then I start getting these messages. Then I start seeing this video get shared, the interview gets shared. Before, it was like this, millions of people had watched this interview. And still to this day, it is an interview used in animal rights videos, and it's become kind of an iconic interview. You know, I spent 10 days in meditation summarizing my plea for veganism, and that inspired and planted seeds in a lot of people in this world. And that was just all started from one guy who didn't even have Facebook, who said eating animals is bad karma. The power of the conversations that we have, the truth, it is so powerful. And it spreads. It's like a shining light, and darkness cannot live in the light. You might not have known some of the things I talked about tonight. You might not have known that we can be healthy with eating animal products. You might not have known that humane slaughter is the biggest oxymoron in English. You might not have known that free range means next to nothing for animals. You might not have known this. You might have thought veganism was extreme. But now, you know. You know the truth. And if you're not convinced, go and research yourself and you'll find for yourself. And as they say, once you know better, you can do better. Before, you didn't know better. I didn't know better either, you know? That's why I'm not here saying, you all, you know, you monsters. How dare you what you're doing? I'm here saying, listen, good chance you didn't know this either. But now you know, so let's do better. Let's be better. Let's start with us in making this world the place that we all want it to be, and the place that the animals deserve it to be. The least they deserve is a vegan world. Nothing less is good enough. Nothing less is good enough. The least they deserve is a vegan world. This is not some mundane diet choice. This is the difference between enslavement and freedom, between torture and peace, between death and life. This is serious, and we are either on the side of oppression and violence or on the side of peace and justice, non-vegan or vegan. And there is no third choice. So I hope you all make the right choice. Thank you very much. Thank you all, I really appreciate that. It warms my heart. I am going to be doing another speech. Is there people outside? Did they come back? Nobody's answering me. There are people outside. Okay, so because they couldn't all fit in tonight. But I thought I would answer a few questions, if any of you have any. Just like maybe three or four questions. 5 questions. Sweet as. You're the boss. But before I get into that, I just wanted to, again, thank you all so much for being here tonight. Thank you to everybody who made this happen, especially Kim, who made this trip, this tour happen for me in the USA. Very grateful. You know, we all help in different ways. Some people get up here and do the speech. Some people bring their friends. Some people, you know, organize the venue. Some people, whatever, do the sound. We can all help in different ways and point our skills in the direction of spreading this important message. So I just want to say thanks to everybody for being here, especially the people who aren't vegan, who are dragged here by your vegan friends. Good work, vegan friends, and good work, non-vegans. Give them a round of applause, please. Okay, now, for the questions. Don't feel bad if you think you've got a question that I've answered a million times, or, you know, like, ask anything. If it's on your mind, especially the people who have objections to something that I've said, or feel like they haven't got an answer, a question that they've got answered, then feel free to ask so I can help you move a little bit closer in that direction. So, yes.
So, one of the things that my friends used to say a lot to me are human rights over animal rights. Like, they're always like, oh, human rights over animal rights. Have you done research on, like, human exploitation in the meat industry, like the workers? That's
a really great question. This person's friends say, but it should be human rights over animal rights. Okay, well, just let me start right there. Why do people believe that? Just because we are members of this same species. Everyone matters. Humans matter. Other species matter. But in my opinion, what I think we should do, like, look at what's happening. What's the worst thing? We're talking about trillions of individuals every single year that are lined up at a slaughterhouse and about to be murdered. And it can be as easy as shifting across in your supermarket to bring it to an end. Now, it all matters, but you can be vegan and fight for every other cause you want. Being vegan does not take any more time out of your life. You're still going to put milk on your cereal, put soy milk. You're still going to have a burrito, have black beans instead of meat, have guacamole instead of sour cream. You know what I mean? It takes no extra effort to be a vegan. So you're going to go fight for women's rights, for example. Amazing, great, that is so good. When you do it, eat a vegan breakfast on your way to fuel you, put vegan clothes on. And what was I thinking? Oh, okay, now in terms of human exploitation in the meat and dairy industry and things like that, of course there is. Often the workers in there, by the way, slaughterhouses have the highest incident rate of injury and worker turnover out of all jobs. They often will hire either people who used to be in prison, or they will hire people who may not speak English very well. Often they will hire marginalised communities. And the people who do this job, you know, especially somebody who's just come out of prison, who are killing constantly, this definitely will affect them. And the studies show that the surrounding areas around slaughterhouses, the surrounding communities, have an increased rate of violent crime as well. It also affects, when they put these factory farms and slaughterhouses in these places, they often put it in places where, again, these are marginalised communities. And the different types of sprays in terms of pollution and things like that do affect the health of the people in these areas. So this is definitely a human rights issue as well. Also what I mentioned about when we feed all this food to these animals and all these people are starving to death every single day, it's a human rights issue also in terms of we are telling people that this is healthy. We, the government, you know, it is lying to people in saying this is what we should eat. There's all this propaganda saying we have to eat these things, and this is the thing that is actually killing us and making us suffer and die. There's a lot of issues surrounding humans in it as well. But I would say you can fight for anything you want to fight for. Great, the world needs more people being active in raising awareness for justice. But, so you don't have to be a vegan activist, but you still should be vegan. There's still no reason why you can't be vegan. If your heart lies with fighting for women's rights, for example, cool, go with what you're passionate for, that's fine. But don't go and say, end injustice over here, and then go and contribute to injustice by buying a chicken burger later in that day. You know? So I'd say that, yeah, of course, fight for whatever you want, but the least you should do is still be vegan when you do it. Just like a vegan, don't be racist, don't be sexist, you know, try to be a good person as well. But that doesn't mean you have to go and fight for those things. If you believe that animal rights, that's your calling and that's what you feel passionate about, don't feel guilty about fighting for it. Yeah, but great question, thanks a lot. Yes. Oh, sorry, I see this man. Yep.
Hi, Danny. I love your message. I love your delivery, your presentation. And your awakening happened through facts. Same for me. And there are all these different pieces that you just put together tonight, from personal health to environmental to animals. And I'm a PE teacher, so nutrition is part of our curriculum. I can't go back. I'm going to start school next week. I can't go back and teach the food pyramid now. Okay? So, and part of your, at the beginning of this, you said you want to go out and carry this message. I have a wonderful opportunity to do that. And I just wondered if you have, but I can't just go out there and I can't show Earthlings in my class.
Why not? I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
That would be fun. They're in middle school, you know. But I wondered if you had any ideas for me, and maybe it doesn't come right now, but we can talk online.
Yeah, that's a great point. See, that's the, you know, I feel there's a lot of people in professions that is like a conflict of interest when they're told to, you know, for example, a teacher told to teach the food pyramid, which is funded by the dairy industry, and you know, like it's such a conflict of interest for him. You're a PE teacher, you're trying to tell them how to be healthy by eating dairy, you know, and I see the conflict of interest a lot. Like for example, when I'm at a slaughterhouse and there are police officers there and I'm saying, hey, you are supposed to be fighting for justice, these are innocent beings in there, do you not see that this is an injustice? And they kind of just say, this is my job. So unfortunately the world is geared in a way that it makes it hard for certain people just like yourself. But what I would say is that whether you can teach a whole class on why plant-based nutrition is healthy or not, you are still going to be talking to these kids. You can still plant seeds. You know, it might be one little seed like what was planted with me that sprouts in these children. When they ask, what are you eating for lunch? What do you eat? What do you think is healthy? You can say that this is what I think, and you can still be honest and educated in that way. And then to take it another step, maybe you can get some sort of plant-based nutrition teaching happening in your school. Maybe that could be your thing that you do, your activism, your vegan activism. You know, starting something new in the curriculum, or getting people in, like me or someone else more focused on health, in to talk about it. Like they can be things that you can do. And maybe you won't be able to do it, but maybe you will pave the way for somebody else to do it. You know what I mean? So just, that's a really great avenue, and kids are so important to talk to. So
I like that the way you deliver your message is super strong, but it's not in a threatening way. And I need to adopt that somehow.
I've tried a lot of ways to spread this message. I used to be a little aggressive myself. And I would still be like that if I thought it was more effective. I definitely would. But honestly, through my experience, you know, and this isn't just me, Martin Luther King, he said what did he say? Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. You know, it doesn't mean you're going to get everybody, but if this is the most powerful force we've got, it would make sense to consistently use this and, you know, and exhaust this option. And I definitely think that spreading the message in this way, raising people up rather than shaming people, in my experience, has been far more effective. And it's better for us too, because if you're constantly being hateful, you're generating hate inside of yourself, and you're hurting yourself, and you're contributing to this angry, aggressive, annoying vegan stereotype. And that alone is a big blockage for people going vegan. So I definitely think that there is a lot of room for spreading this message in a more loving way in the vegan community, and I really think we'll have a lot better results if we start giving that more attention. And there's room for it all. I'm not saying, if you want to cover yourself in blood and scream meat is murder at people, that's cool. I'm not going to say don't. Whatever. Do it if you want. But what I am saying is that happens a lot. That kind of vibe is what people view vegans as. And I think that there's a great opportunity for us to show that this can be done in another way. And you know, I wouldn't do it if I didn't think it was successful, but I've had massive success in just talking to people, making friends, not enemies, educating people, because the truth is, like I said earlier, it's powerful enough. And otherwise, good people who are doing a bad thing, when they realize that there's a better way to live, it's only logical that they change. So, and this is, in my opinion, the best way to get people to change. Yes, yo. Oh, one more. You said 5. People are going to be angry. You know what vegans are like. No, it's all good. One more question. Yes.
What are your thoughts on in vitro meat, like lab grown?
Yeah, my thoughts on lab grown meat. If we could get meat grown in a lab and it didn't harm any animals, I would have absolutely no problem with it. Why would I care? If people want to eat some lab grown food, I would not eat that. But if they want to, okay, go for it. But I personally, I don't know why people would want to eat that. I don't know. Do non-vegans think about eating that? We have vegan meat already. We have sausages, we have burgers, and we have chicken, like, we have it all. Why would they not just eat that? I don't understand. Now, if people are going to actually eat it, cool, then go for it. But I just can't imagine that would, personally, in my opinion, take off. It would be great, though, for like obligate carnivores, animals, obligate carnivores, it would be great for that. But we've already got vegan meat, so personally, I just cannot see all these non-vegans going, yep, all right, now that this lab-grown meat is available, let's go for it. I just can't imagine it. But again, ethically, I have no issue with it at all. If it doesn't harm any animals, and I don't know if it does or not. I've heard that it does, I've heard that it doesn't, but I'm just saying if it doesn't, cool. Okay, one more question apparently, yes? Albert? Albert Einstein, is that what you're talking about? Yeah. This is a title of Albert Einstein. He said, nothing will benefit human health and our chances for survival more than the evolution to a vegetarian diet. Albert. I mean vegan. Which is what he meant. Back in the day, vegetarian meant vegan. It's all good, mate. It's all good. Is that it? Oh. Yeah. Often, I don't show them factory farm footage. I just go in there and speak. Sometimes I can. And it's just dependent on the school and dependent on the teacher and depending on how much you sweet talk them. And getting permission slips from parents, and there's a whole process. But I think the best way is if you have vegan teachers in schools, that makes it a lot more easy to facilitate. But it can be a challenge to get in schools at all. But if you can, that's the best audience ever. Okay, I think that's got to be it. Yes? One more. Wait, don't clap yet. Yes? Huh? What? Flex? That was the last one. That was Flex 1 arm. Vegan games, baby. Nude? Nah, he didn't say that. Alright, it's been a pleasure and an honour. Thank you all so much for being here tonight.